Travel along, Catholic pilgrims, for 1 year as we read through St. Faustina's diary. Join me, Amy Thomas, each day for a short reading out of the diary which brought us a deeper understanding of Christ's divine mercy. Welcome, Catholic pilgrims, to day 231 of our readings from St. Faustina's diary. So what happens when you are trying to do God's will, and as you're trying to do God's will, it does not make you feel good? In fact, you experience suffering and torment because of it. Does that mean you're on the wrong track? Does that mean you should abandon ship and turn around and try a different way? Well, Sister Faustina today is experiencing just that. We have seen her striving as hard as she can to do God's will with regards to the divine mercy, to establish the feast, the chaplet, the image, everything, a congregation devoted to the divine mercy. And today she gets permission to do as she feels is right. And when she gets that permission, it brings a lot of suffering and torment. And so does that mean she is on the wrong path? That is what we're going to talk about today in Notebook 3, numbers 1115 through 1120. May 4th. Today I went to see Mother General Michael for a moment and asked her, "Dear Mother, have you had any inspiration regarding my leaving the convent?" Mother General answered, "Until the present, sister, I have always restrained you, but now I leave you complete freedom to choose to do as you wish. You can leave the congregation or you can stay." So I answered, "Very well." I thought of writing immediately to the Holy Father to ask him to release me from my vows. When I had left Mother General, darkness once again descended upon my soul as it had in the past. It is strange that each time I ask permission to leave the congregation, this darkness invades my soul, and I feel as though I have been left completely on my own. While experiencing this torment of the spirit, I decided to go immediately to Mother and tell her about my strange torment and struggle. Mother answered, "That leaving of yours is a temptation." After talking to her for a while, I felt some relief, but the darkness persisted. This divine mercy is a beautiful thing, and it must be a great work of the Lord, since Satan opposes it so much and wants to destroy it. Such were the words of our beloved Mother General. No one can understand or comprehend, nor can I myself describe my torments. But there can be no sufferings greater than this. The sufferings of the martyrs are not greater, because at such times death would be a relief for me. There is nothing to which I can compare these sufferings, this endless agony of the soul. May 5th, 1937. Today I opened up my soul somewhat in confession, because it occurred to me that perhaps this is the real temptation. That at the time I asked to be allowed to leave the congregation, I experienced such great suffering and darkness. To this, the confessor replied that perhaps it was not the time appointed by God. You must pray and wait patiently. But it is true that great sufferings are in store for you. You will have to bear many sufferings and overcome many difficulties. That much is certain. It would be better to wait and to pray much for deeper knowledge and for divine light. These are grave matters. My God, in these difficult moments, my spiritual director, Father Andres, is away, for he has gone to Rome. Jesus, since you have taken him away from me, guide me yourself, because you alone know how much I can bear. I believe firmly that God cannot give me more than I can bear. I trust in his mercy. In the moments when I am between heaven and earth, I keep silent, because even if I did speak, who would understand what I say? Eternity will reveal many things about which I am now silent. When I went out into the garden, I saw how everything was breathing the joy of spring. The trees, adorned with flowers, gave off an intoxicating odor. Everything was throbbing with joy, and the birds were singing and chirping their adoration of God, and said to me, "Rejoice and be happy, Sister Faustina." But my soul remains in torment and darkness. My soul is so sensitive to the rustle of grace that it knows how to talk with all created things and with everything that surrounds me, And I know why God has adorned the earth in this way. But my heart cannot be joyful because my beloved has hidden himself from me, and I will not rest until I find him. I do not know how to live without God, but I also feel that God, absolutely self-sufficient though he is, cannot be happy without me. We have seen Sister Faustina wrestling with this idea of leaving her current congregation for a long time now. She has gone back and forth, struggled, suffered over it, agonized over it. She just feels, quite frankly, awful about it. Awful about leaving the perpetual vows she took for the particular congregation that she is currently with. And she feels that Christ is asking her to start up a new congregation devoted to the divine mercy. Remember, we read all about that, how it was going to be organized and how it was going to run and all those things. And she's just never fully felt utterly confident about it. It's always caused unrest in her soul. And it's no different today. Even though she goes to her mother superior and says, what do you feel about the congregation? And the mother superior, she honestly says, I was restraining you, but now I'm just going to give you the freedom to do what you feel is best. And you would think that this would make Sister Faustina super happy, but it just plunges her into torments and suffering. And she's really, really wrestling with this. And, you would think that when you are on the path of doing God's will and you are pretty sure about it, you're really confident that this is what God wants you to do, and you can see all the signs, you've been praying about it. It's not like she's hastily entering into this idea. You would think that this permission, this freedom that the Mother Superior is giving her would kind of make her feel some relief, like a sigh of relief. Oh, yay, finally, I can just go forth. But it doesn't. It doesn't allow her that freedom. She maybe feels even worse. And, she's struggling with it. She even says that this is worse than what the martyrs go through because at least they get death. And she says there is nothing to which I can compare these sufferings, this endless agony of the soul. And so she goes to confession because she is realizing that this might be a serious temptation. This idea that, she wants to open up this new congregation or start this new congregation. And now that she's been given permission to go, to make her own mind up by her mother superior, now all these torments are coming. And she realizes that this may be the work of the devil because, honestly, of course the devil would want to make her feel horrible for leaving her congregation. He doesn't want this to go forth and start up. Obviously, everybody understanding God's mercy. You've got a bunch of nuns praying for God's mercy to be showered over the earth and over sinners. Obviously, Satan does not want this. So it does make sense that she is experiencing a lot of angst over this decision. And she's struggling too because Father Andres is not there. Her spiritual director, her pretty consistent confessor. He knows a lot of what's going on in her life, and she's really struggling without him near. And so she doesn't even feel like she can describe this for anybody, what's going on in her soul and all the pain and torment that she's feeling. She says she doesn't even know how to describe it, and so she's just kind of keeping silent about it. But she goes out into the garden and she's noticing the beauty of spring and the birds and the trees. She feels like they're talking to her and saying, come on, Sister Faustina, rejoice and be happy. But she still feels like she's in darkness and still being tormented. Because I guess at this particular time, she doesn't feel particularly close to Christ, as she says in the end. But my heart cannot be joyful because my beloved has hidden himself from me, and I will not rest until I find him. So, I'm sure this has happened to a lot of us. We feel like God is calling us down a certain path, And once we decide that we're going to go down that path because we really feel like he's calling us on it, it just doesn't feel good. Like we don't feel good. Oftentimes I think, we would believe that once we start on the path of doing God's will, then everything would just be wonderful and we'll click our heels in the air as we skip down the sunny path that God has picked for us. But we see here that it's not that case sometimes. Sometimes when we do God's will, maybe Satan attacks us and makes us feel not good about doing it. I think Sister Faustina, because she's so devoted to being obedient, and she took her perpetual vows, that she finds it really hard to leave this congregation, to, I guess, walk out on it. Maybe she feels like she's betraying that congregation in some way. So I think that her confessor that she goes to in our readings today gives her some good advice. He tells her to pray, which we know she does, but that's good advice for us as well. If you're feeling a lot of angst over doing God's will, if it's just not feeling good to you, if it doesn't feel like, the sun is shining down and, everything is wonderful, pray on it. Talk to God about that. And if you need to, if it's something that you can be patient about, you don't have to make a decision right away, be a little patient. See how things play out. Talk to a spiritual director, talk to your priest, talk to a trusted friend, and recognize that if we are to do God's will, and it's really what God wants us to do, Satan wants to thwart the mission. Absolutely. And one way he may do that is to make us feel horrible for following God's will. And that can be really confusing because it would seem that we would feel super great when we figure it out what we're supposed to do. But the devil is a crafty liar and can pull lots of tricks. So prayer, patience if you can, talk to other people, and recognize that it might be a temptation from the devil. So that is all for today, Catholic Pilgrims. I will see you back here for day 232. And until then, live the faith boldly and travel well.